ahead. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Warden Eamon. I met with you, I believe it was July 2023, and I have looked forward to having this opportunity to address your council as a whole. I'm joined today by Carrie Richardson, who is our environmental coordinator for MRC Pontiac. And I entitle this Opportunity for an Ontario-Quebec Partnership. This is a picture I'm kind of proud of. It was on the front page of the Le Droit newspaper in Gatineau in 2019, and it says, the translation, Pontiac wishes to transform your waste into electricity. I don't know if anyone saw this on December 2nd. It came as a surprise to me. We had the Ottawa Citizen brought to our meeting where we were going to vote on moving forward with our business plan, and actually they were summoned by a small group of people who are against the project, and I don't think that they realized how this would result. It resulted in 5 full pages in the Ottawa Citizen, and because it's owned by the National Post, it went national. It was received in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal Gazette, and so I'm very thankful to that person, because this project has become validated. And what I learned a lot in this article. It was well researched by Andrew Duffy. You can find it on the internet. He did world research and he compared landfill to technologies. And I was horrified to discover that Canada is currently burying 97% of its waste in landfill. We have so much land. And he compared to places like Sweden and Denmark that are much advanced. And on that note, in our business plan, we were very fortunate to have as our lead consultant the global lead for 32 years from a company called Ramboll in Denmark. And she is currently working on a project, only 50,000 tons in Prince Edward Island, but to the other extreme, Shanghai, 2.7 million tons of waste per year. And the benefit of working with a country that has been incinerating since the early 1970s is they have perfected cleaning the emissions, so the emissions are not an issue. In fact, they're so healthy that in Copenhagen, Copenhill, this is also mentioned in the article, there's a nice picture of a businessman skiing down. The top of the incinerator is a ski hill called Copenhill, and the sides are the world's highest climbing walls, 100 meters. Not sure we're building that in the Pontiac, but we're in good hands with this consultant. She's worked on every project in Canada as well. We chose Deloitte for our business plan because they worked on Durham, York. Has anyone here visited the Durham, York facility? Just outside of Toronto. I know at the last FCM meeting, some people were able to take a bus out and had a tour. And I know the City of Ottawa have had a tour. Let's talk about the context. Currently, our MRC Pontiac, with only 14,700 people, has 5,000 tons of waste per year, and we're trucking it all the way to Lachute landfill, which is huge, and you know, they just keep increasing the size. But the time is coming where the Premier of Quebec will say no new landfills, and we're going to have to close landfills. And I've had discussions with the Ontario government, and I think there's a very good chance that that's going to happen as well. So some of you may have landfills that are available for 50 years, but the question will be, will the government interfere or recommend a better solution? So we're spending $1.7 million annually, which is a lot considering our total budget is only $9 million. So historically, we have refused 2 landfill sites. We're against landfill, but we do support energy from waste since 2011. So we've had 4 councils vote unanimously for it, including the current 18. Now, you may have noticed that 6 weren't sure. They wanted us to take $100,000 from our surplus, but that was the only thing they were voting against. Really, for $120,000, we got a lot of good information. The MRC Pontiac has a proposed site with heavy industrial zoning for waste management in the municipality of Litchfield above Portage de Four. This site could allow electricity to be transmitted directly to the Hydro-Quebec and potentially to the Ontario Power Generation at the Chenot Dam. And there will be trucks crossing this dam. And recently work has been done on the dam, and I checked, and the crane alone that sits on it is 300 tons, and each truck that would carry a 53-foot truck carrying 30 tons of garbage. So no problem, we don't need to renovate the bridge. Today, energy from waste and numerous technologies involved in that are approved by the Quebec government. And we also have had the BAP, which is a provincial consultation that was done, and not only did the people of Quebec approve incineration, it is recommended. Currently, today, there is no municipal incinerator in Quebec. So MRC Pontiac, we've worked on this since 2017, will be the first. And we're excited that the Minister of the Environment is coming, and we don't have ministers come too often to the Pontiac. Sometimes it's a little bit forgotten. He's made an arrangement. We know what day he's coming, in March, because he wants to stand on the site and he wants to hear all about our plans, which he supports. In Ottawa, excuse me just one moment. Yeah, City of Ottawa has been studying solutions. You've been reading about it, I'm sure. And their landfill is currently the size of many football fields. It's they've got 30% left, and their draft report was showing how they could extend the life. They are looking at anaerobic digestion eventually with Convertis, I think, but their final report will be approved in 2024. Before finalizing the draft, before Christmas, they voted to explore incineration. So this could mean, will they build an incinerator in Ottawa, or will they consider sending it to the Pontiac? Ottawa has a population of 1 million, growing all the time. They need a socially acceptable waste management solution, and it is our capital city. I think it could be difficult to locate an energy from waste facility within the borders of Ottawa, because there's a term NIMBY, not in my backyard. And I was surprised, but in the article that was in the Ottawa Citizen, they called me a YIMBY, yes, in my backyard. COVID has led to a 10% increase. I'm sure your staff saw that with COVID. Increasing garbage, and we also know as populations increase, the waste will increase. Our MRC has presented this proposal to the Minister of Environment and also to the Minister of Energy and Economic Development. The idea: to build an energy from waste facility in the MRC Pontiac, Quebec, that could receive municipal waste from the City of Ottawa, Renfrew County, the City of Pembroke, and the regions of the Outaouais. This is a map. I have a better map that I could forward to Warden Eamon later today that really shows a red line all the way around, but it's kind of like a sandwich with the Ottawa River in the middle. The Outaouais consists of 5 regions, Pontiac being one. It includes the city of Gatineau, also Valley de la Gatineau, Descaulins, and Papineau. Then at the top we have Pembroke, then we have Renfrew County, and then we have Ottawa. To explain this idea, Quebec currently accepts medical waste, recyclables, and construction debris from Ontario. Household waste from Ontario hadn't been permitted because of limited landfill capacity in Quebec. But now that this can be transformed into energy, not just burned to the air, but transformed into electricity and steam, it will be permitted. When Smurfit Stone was in operation, you may remember that mill. That is the site that this new facility will be built. 50% of the pulp and biomass came from Ontario, came from Renfrew County, from your mills, and also from the Algonquin Forestry Association. So the model of receiving waste of another sort was already there from Ontario. Our proposed solution is to build a 400,000 ton energy from waste facility. An energy from waste facility works by taking waste that cannot be recycled. So I was asked by the Mayor of Petawawa, are we going to be putting any organics in it? Absolutely not. We're not permitted to put any organics in it. So there's no competition with an anaerobic digester. We also will be not able to put any recyclables in it as well. Quebec is on a real campaign. We're building a big MRF in Montreal, and they claim that they're going to have another use for every recycled good, so we will see. So we're talking about just the residual waste that after we maximize composting and recycling. And then what happens is that waste is converted. It's a resource. It's not just garbage. And it will be converted into potential energy. And there's three kinds of energy: heat, electricity, and transportation fuels. We're focused on steam heat for district heating and electricity. In this case, 400,000 tons will produce 450 megawatts of electricity and steam heat. We're hoping to even heat our hospital 26 kilometers away. The steam can be carried 53 kilometers. As you know, Pontiac is a bilingual border region, which I think makes it very easy to do business with Ontario. We have several access points, which include Highway 17 to the Chenot Dam, Highway 148 from Pembroke and from Gatineau, and from the north, Highway 301 from Valley de la Gatineau. Now, this is very non-specific. These were the tonnages we started with. After the business plan that we've just completed, I haven't adjusted the numbers, but we're finding that as recycling and composting is picking up, the tonnages are being reduced, but we also have to take into account increases of population. So this shows you the MRC Pontiac at the top with only 5,000 tons, Ottawa, Pembroke, Renfrew County. I know that 4 of your municipalities are sending waste to Moose Creek landfill, but we also have toured the Waste Recovery Center, and then the Outaouais is also mentioned. So this total shows 392,000. The technology choice that we have chosen is incineration. The closest example is the Durham York Energy Center, which is operated by Covanta. It was built by Covanta. This used to be an American company. It is now owned by Sweden. They bought it for $5 billion, so it's a successful company with over 50 facilities currently operating in the world. We, out of incineration, choose mass combustion. This is where the waste is heated to over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and within an hour and a half, several tons are reduced to steam and ash. There are 5,000 facilities in the world using mass combustion. It is the most popular, which again gives us great comfort. It's proven and it's reliable. So the facility could be built by Covanta, but the technology is not Covanta. Technology will be the best in the world and the cleanest. And these are mainly being manufactured in countries like Germany, Norway, but there will be many when the time comes coming to our door asking to be the chosen technology. Capital costs. A 400,000-ton private-public partnership facility costs $450 million to build. And I want you to know right now that we do not see, if you become a partner in this endeavor, you will not be asked for capital costs. 36 months of construction will involve 800 people, managed on budget and on time. Private investors are already in place. They've given us expressions of interest totaling $150 million of the 450. But we've been cautioned by the consultants that you don't want too much private money because private companies want to be reimbursed at double-digit interest, and it will affect the operating cost and increase the tipping fee, which we don't want. Other sources of funding that would be public are from Investment Quebec, where if you put in 20, they give 80, the Green Municipal Fund from Quebec, and the Green Infrastructure Fund, from which you're familiar with through FCM. Administration board of this own facility would be created, composed of all the users. So the users would be the owners of this facility, although it's located in Pontiac. So it could be made up of Ottawa, Pembroke, Renfrew County, Pontiac, and Outaouais. The waste management is paid by a user pay based on tonnage and tipping fees. The sale of ferrous and non-ferrous metals recovered brings in significant revenue. The hydro is sold to Hydro-Quebec. And Hydro-Quebec have a relationship with Ontario, and that's going to continue for the next 5 years. A possible secondary transformation, I'm very interested in this. Instead of having maybe 30% of the residue go to a landfill, there can be another business where the bottom ash is generated to create inert ash. It's generated to create cement for building infrastructure and a sand substitute for the roads. The inert, healthy ash could be locally landfilled. We have a small landfill right on the site. Waste is picked up from transfer stations, not coming from every single street. You know, when people talk about, oh, the trucks, well, we estimate with 53-foot trucks with movable floors, they'll go directly into, for example, Ottawa's 3 transfer stations that are all out in the West End, conveniently, and their report says they probably need 2 more transfer stations. So it will be pick up at transfer stations, and a minimum of 1,000 tons will be transformed every day, and the power delivery is 24/7. So unlike wind, solar, or even hydro, water, and dams, this is 24/7, and the only time that it closes is 2 times a year for maintenance, which is just a couple of days at a time. So there's no fuel needed to keep this going. It's the waste that continues to fuel it, and when you do need to relight it after maintenance, we don't have natural gas, we will use propane. Approximately 40 trucks per day if they're coming on 53-foot trucks. The continuous emission monitoring is complemented with periodic testing performed by regulator-approved third parties, which is important. Air emerging from the stack is well scrubbed by baghouses, lime, and water. So 99% is water vapor, nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon monoxide. Compared to the greenhouse gas that is coming from landfills, and landfills, we have to be responsible for them for the rest of the world's history. And you know that if you don't vent it, you're going to have explosions and fires. And we've spoken to Kitigan Zibi Anishinabeg, who are our Algonquin people who actually own the land where this will be built, and they much prefer a technology like this to landfill, which can affect the air, the soil, and the water. The emissions from Durham, York, and all of the other facilities we've looked at are well below the EU and A7, which is for Ontario allowable emissions. And for every ton of waste processed by energy from waste, it equals 1 ton of greenhouse gas avoided. This is a quick graph that just shows you the orange is the amount of landfilling. And so you can see Canada has, it says only 63% here compared to the EU average, which is 2.8%. And actually, the picture on the left bottom is the Copen Hill. That is the ski hill and with the climbing walls on the side in Copenhagen.
For our 30th anniversary, we have thousands of rollbacks, 30% off or more.
The benefits. This will establish the Ottawa Valley region as an environmental leader. It provides a solution to the National Capital Region's residual waste problem with major diversion from landfill. This large region shows environmental, socially accepted leadership achievable in a reasonable time from now, 4 to 6 years. Pontiac will save $1.7 million. We won't have to ship to Lachute any longer. The facility will create power for the equivalent of 50,000 homes or 100,000 electric cars. And at the facility, 50 jobs permanent will be created. The next steps. MRC Pontiac has completed initial business plan with Deloitte and Ramboll from Denmark, evaluating various technologies, looking at business models, partnerships, quantifying tonnages, travel distances, tipping fees, price of electricity production, and funding. The results are in draft form and will be shared when finalized. Key findings. Excellent and clean technologies are available. 25-75 private-public partnership is the best option. A 300,000-ton facility could suffice with new tonnage information, so this will be less expensive. DBOM, or DBOM as Deloitte calls it, is the best plan, where we have a company, for example, Covanta, design, build, operate, and maintain. It will last for 30 years. Then it is renovated and can be in operation for another 30 years. The last finding, it is very competitive with the current tipping fees that are being paid for landfill, and the distances are all reasonable for all of these regions coming to the Pontiac. The Pontiac is in the center. What do we next need to do? We need to do an in-depth business plan, partially funded, we hope, with interested partners and government grants. Public consultation will follow. That's the environmental assessment, which is done through the Ministry of Environment, and that's where everybody can have their say. But just to give you some feedback, of our 14,700 people, only less than 3% have been very vocal, and they have a petition on change.org, which is for all of Canada, not just the Pontiac. And actually, I'm thankful for all of their questions and concerns being raised, because it's shown me two things. One, that they are talking about a project that we'll never build. They're talking about the old style incineration. Number two, it's always important to understand what the objections and concerns are and do our best to meet all of them and reassure people. I've said begin construction will be another step, but before that, I just want to finish by saying we all need a solution for waste, and we hope that you will consider our facility of energy from waste as a possible option for Renfrew County. And if we have 3 minutes, I wanted to show the video, and the video is on that link. And how do I start that, or can someone else click on that? Pardon me? Oh, it started. Is the volume going to be okay?
We're Covanta, a world leader in providing sustainable waste and energy solutions to municipalities, businesses, and industries. If you've ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes at one of our energy from waste facilities, we'd love to show you. We're proud of our modern plants and the people who work here. So come on in. Once trucks arrive, they are weighed and checked in before heading inside to the tipping hall. The waste is unloaded onto the tipping floor and visually inspected for any unacceptable items, which are removed for separate recycling or proper disposal. Waste is then pushed into a storage pit and thoroughly mixed before being loaded into bins, which we call hoppers, where it travels to the combustion chamber. The tipping and waste storage areas are maintained under negative air pressure to contain dust and odors. Once fed into the combustion chamber, waste is combusted at extremely high temperatures in a self-sustaining process at approximately 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. A typical hopper load is completely combusted in 1 to 2 hours. As waste is burned, the heat converts water in the steel tube-lined walls into steam that rises through boiler tubes where it is superheated. The steam turns a turbine-driven generator to produce electricity, or may sometimes be used directly for heating or industrial processes. The electricity produced by the turbine generator is exported to local utilities for use in homes and businesses. Each ton of waste can generate 550 to 700 kilowatt hours of electricity. Steam from the process is condensed back into water and returned to the boiler tubes, making it an efficient, closed-loop system. After combustion, the volume of waste is reduced by 90%, leaving an inert ash and metal. Remaining ash is beneficially reused or landfilled as non-hazardous waste. Ferrous metals such as iron and steel are recovered using a rotating drum magnet, and non-ferrous metals like aluminum and copper are separated by an eddy current system. Collected metal is sold to be made into new products. State-of-the-art air pollution control equipment ensures that emissions are well below limits to be fully protective of human health and the environment. We neutralize acid gases using lime in a scrubber reactor and inject activated carbon for heavy metal control. We control emissions of particulate matter primarily through a bag house, which employs thousands of fabric filter bags. All flue gas must pass through the bags before exiting through the stack. Throughout this process, the control room closely monitors emissions through a real-time continuous emission monitoring system, controls steam flow, and a number of other automated systems inside the facility. Covanta is committed to providing sustainable waste and energy solutions to ensure no waste is ever wasted. At Covanta, we believe the materials discarded every day should be utilized to their fullest potential to preserve the world's valuable resources and generate clean energy for our communities and the world we live in. This is how Covanta is powering today and protecting tomorrow.
Savourez le printemps et trouvez votre accord parfait chez Starbucks.
Thank you very much. Would you like me to take one or two questions?
Sure.
All right, are there any questions?
Any questions, comments, concerns from members of council? I see the member from Blanchard Valley.
Thank you, Warden, and thanks, Warden Jane. It's lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you again.
Just one question in your explanation of the idea. One of the things it says is by taking waste that cannot be recycled or composted. I suppose my question is, knowing that there's a very low commodity for plastics, etc., does it mean cannot be recycled or should not be recycled at this time? And in that case, could we incinerate things that have zero commodity that I am fearful are going into landfills? I think there are many people that share my concerns. And if you can't answer that, I know
No,
that
I can. It's an excellent question. I'm quite confident that Durham York has got, they're not actively taking recycling, but I think from time to time where there's some problem waste, they are looking after it. I do know that when COVID first came out, it was the Covantas down in the US that were looking after all of the sort of infected things, and I've been told that if you were putting rubber tires in or something with plastic, it's a higher burn, so you have to slow it down. However, in Quebec right now, we do have a very zealous new organization called the EEQ, and I'm watching to see how it goes, because the people that I represent, we're all saying we're concerned that it's all just going to landfill. All this effort for recycling, and where is it really going? Because when China closed their doors, that made a big difference with the plastics. And so I think this is one of these endeavors that looks good, sounds good. We'll see where it goes, but I will tell you that after the woman made her presentation, I told her about our energy from waste, and I said, if we can help you in any way she came running back and said, I don't think we have another use for chip bags. Could we bring the chip bags to your incinerator? I thought, I bet there will be more things. So yes, an incinerator can take those things, but it's important that I make the statement, because what Quebec has now put into place, they have told us that we'll have another conveyor belt that will pull out any plastics. We will ask our partners not to send recyclables, but to say never, I just think in the world of garbage, there has to be some flexibility. And I also, though, don't want to discourage any waste management staff that are working hard to get their residents to comply with the recycling and composting. We're hoping to initiate door-to-door composting, and we have a lot of farms, and they think that's crazy, but I had a chance to launch the green bin when I was on the Toronto Council in 2005, and I remember thinking the only way you can estimate how much you're capturing with the organics is to have it picked up at every door, and if you don't make it convenient for people, right from the decision at the sink to put it in the little bin that goes in the bigger bin, it will go in the garbage. And we're trying to lessen what's going to landfill. We should, it's different environmentally with energy from waste. In some countries maybe taking recyclables, but we're hoping to have a model that is not advocating anything but residual waste, which should be about 30% of what's left over. And yet that was a long answer, but yes?
Thank you. Member from North Algona.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. What an excellent presentation, and I really do believe this is a much better solution than burying garbage. How close do you think you are to an actual start date on the construction?
So we know that it will take 3 years, 36 months to build the facility. We also know that we need to have an environmental assessment. Our last business plan just took 3 months. I would say we will start the next business plan as soon as possible, and I would hope maybe by June we would have that finalized. Then I'm ready to go right into our environmental assessment phase. Some were saying, well, we want to have a referendum or a vote on this before you even do a business plan. Well, what is there to discuss and vote on if you haven't done your business plan? And we need to also first see where will the waste come from? Because in 2010, when MRC Pontiac wanted an incinerator, they forgot that it takes a fair amount of waste, and the whole Outaouais only had 90,000 tons. It's been my idea to look at Ontario, because I'm basically an Ontario person that moved to Quebec in 2012, and I understand from being on the City of Toronto Council how Ontario works, and I did go to Vic Fideli's office because he's offering $500,000 for any Ontario-Quebec partnerships. So, you know, the fastest this could take place if an environmental assessment takes a year, but our consultants told us that sometimes it takes 4 years. I mean, I would hope not. And I will be advocating not to rush the process. It's got to have its fair time. But I think what's really going to help is that the Minister of Environment supports us. And they've even told us, Carrie and I were in on a presentation with their ministry, that they have funds that could even pay to build this. So it helps a lot if the government's behind you, and the fact that they did an extensive BAP consultation. And as far as the people in the Pontiac are concerned, they look at it this way. We want to be revitalized. We used to be a very successful place, and we're now one of the poorest parts of Quebec. So we see this as jobs, and we also are quite green, the fact that we've never allowed major landfills. So this is a chance for us. We can't be a leader in forestry anymore. We can't be a leader in agriculture, but we can be a leader in waste management and set an example and be a good neighbor.
Thank you. Member from Avison Bromley, then Greater Madawaska, and then Petawawa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Warden, for a very comprehensive presentation. I think that we absolutely are in a time of innovation, and we need to change the way we are doing things. We did have a presentation a few years back. I think that this is somewhat different when it's speaking of incineration. I think that the other program, which was sustained technology, was a microlysing, I believe, or a steaming of the process.
I know them very well. I know the projects, yeah.
So we have to get ourselves outside of the box, and we have to approach our needs. And in fact, the other element of this, aside from its landfilling, that is also part of your presentation, is the contribution towards energy production and the reduction of greenhouse gases. So having said that, I am somewhat confounded that we have a very similar program here on the Ontario side with the near-surface disposal facility, with low-level nuclear waste at Chalk River, at CNL, and the heavily engineered and rigorously vetted through an approvals process, and likewise with the consent of the Algonquin of Pikwakanagan, and yet the MRC Pontiac still continues to be opposed to this, and it seems an incongruous position both to be embracing the technology herein described and yet being opposed to the technology that is being described that is going to play an enormous role in greenhouse gas reduction, in our adapting and confronting climate change, that it confounds me that MRC Pontiac still continues to be opposed to that development.
Okay, well, I can say that the Algonquins on the Quebec side were completely against it. And initially, in my first term as warden, we just asked for more information. In the current term, we just asked that the storage be, we were being told it was 1 kilometer from the river. We are heavily flooded, and the flooding is continuing because of climate change. And I have also the knowledge that we are the least healthy of 89 MRCs in all of Quebec. I can't prove that cancer is coming from the water, but we do know that our MRC is the closest. And, you know, in the end, 140 municipalities on the Ontario and Quebec side were against the particular location. Now that it's all been decided, I can tell you that I think it was just last Monday or last week, we had a contingent go. It was an economic development opportunity because we have 300 people working at CNL from the Pontiac, and we appreciate, you know, the jobs that are being provided to them. So we still have a working relationship with them, and one resolution we stood up and said what we did, but now that the decision has been made, we did not launch a legal dispute or anything like that. And I think they understand that our only concern was we were being told that it's being stored 1 kilometer. And, you know, nothing is 100% sure. Time will tell, and we hope that this will be a safe solution. I received some information yesterday telling me that it's not going to be exactly 1 kilometer, but it's actually going to be much further up by Ralphton. So I don't know what, you know, the right answer is, but we work closely with Kitigan Zibi and Nishnabeg. They are our Algonquin. I know Pikwakagon did support it, and that surprised them. So really, I see the two as unrelated, but you've asked me this question. I'm certainly going to answer it. At the time, our council felt the right decision was to say, please move it further away, so there can't be any leaching, so that there can't possibly, with flooding, be any leakage into the river, because we do know earlier, in the 50s or so, the nuclear waste was going right into the river. And something is causing us to die of cancer. We don't know what it is, but could be related to the Ottawa River.
Follow-up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. I have to take issue, actually, Warden Toller. In the absence of any evidence, I think that that is unfounded, and I think it is prejudicial, and I don't think it is helpful in the conversation, quite frankly. That is, the YIMBY and the NIMBY seem to be in substantial conflict. When you assert that, we don't know what might happen. The same can be said of incineration, but these are the things that we must embrace to move forward. That's my concern here, is that I think the leadership that is required here is to embrace that there are going to be risks in anything our modern society is going to do, and I don't think it's actually responsible to be suggesting, unfounded, that these are leading to health concerns. This has gone through a rigorous approvals process, and I'm assuming so too will the incinerator. And at the end of that, if it is approved, I'm assuming that that agency that is tasked with the approval will have done their job.
Well, I will rebut with 2 points. Number one, I did say we cannot prove. So I did not state there's a relationship between cancer and the nuclear waste. Number two, we are moving forward. We are moving forward and embracing the decision. That's it. That's all for the MRC Pontiac. We're not further disputing Chalk River.
Great, thank you, and we'll move to Greater Madawaska member, please.
Thank you, Warden. Through you, Warden, to the Warden. I know you're looking for partnerships in this, and I know over in Europe the partnerships are set up, and there's a minimum tonnage requirement from each county or each township, and if that minimum tonnage is not met, then there are penalties. Is this the model that you are looking at as well? Because there could be more cost to it than like upfront.
No.
Thank you.
Helps 3 issues with 1 answer. I recommend Sensodyne Sensitivity Gum and Enamel.
No, we won't, because there is, with Ottawa as kind of the anchor supply of waste, and if we build 300,000 tons, no, we're not, setting up a model where you're going to be required to send a certain amount, because then you will probably need to put in some recyclables and things like that. No, I think more information to really address that issue will be raised and realized in our more intensive business plan. This was kind of a high-level business plan. I just wanted to know, does this idea even make sense? Are the distances for driving appropriate? And is the tipping fee going to be so much higher that, you know, they said to me in Ottawa, we just want it to be cost-effective. It has to be cost-effective, or why would you even consider this? Yeah.
Thank you. And the member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Warden. Through you. It's nice to see this level of innovation coming from a small rural municipality like ourselves, way up in the corner of nowhere. So it's great to see, and thanks for all the work you've done on this. My question, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, we have an Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center that I think has about 8 to 10 years of life left. So should you get this built and up and running in, say, 5 years, we still have a landfill that's serviceable. Are you hoping that if we do become a partner in this project that we would instantly take part, or would there be some leeway in us continuing to fill our landfill and then becoming a partner?
So the consultant's plan actually showed that changeover taking place in 2032, because they were looking at how long Ottawa can go with their current landfill. When will they need absolutely the solution? I said, well, I'm not sure I would still be the warden by 2032. I think it's very difficult sometimes to keep a project on track if it takes too long to build. And I think what our potential partners are looking for is, we want to know there's a solution coming sooner than later. So it would have to be your decision based on, of course, finances, your budget, taxes, things like that. But I am under the impression in Ottawa that if it's cost effective for them and similar to what they're currently paying, they're at $130 a ton, but it's actually $185 with $55 of taxes. And then, you know, that's going to appreciate over time. But I'm under the impression that the people that live near the Trail Road landfill are so tired of this that they would be very happy to switch as soon as they can. So, you know, provided they were wondering about greenhouse gases, and I said, well, if all goes well, we may have electric trucks by then. But the greenhouse gas comparison versus what's coming out of a landfill, there is no comparison. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question to the member from Boncher Valley, please.
Thank you, Warden. To follow up on my colleague from Petawawa's comments, one of the challenges we do have here is that waste management is not at the county level. So some of us have a little bit left in our waste sites, some of us have quite a bit of time, others are with OVWRC. We've got all different models. So it will, the tonnage that you put in your presentation may vary depending on if and when those municipalities will sign on. So I think that's just food for thought for us at this sitting here at the county level. Thank you.
It's also municipal in Pontiac, and I created something called the Waste Management Committee, because it was the only way that our staff could actually work with all the mayors and director generals at one time. So we have this virtual meeting, and what we're trying to do more and more is get everyone composting in the same way and recycling in the same way. Then it's coordinated. But in the next step with the business plan, we would hope that maybe, you know, sometimes it's not easy getting the right information. We would hope that you might be open-minded to giving us the information that we need, just so we have accurate statistics. It's not saying you're signing on.
Thank you. Just a very quick question, I'm sure is top of mind for everybody. Can we mine some of our sites? Will your program accept those?
Yeah, that was the answer I should have said about penalties on not meeting the sort of expected amounts of tonnage. Yes, mining the landfills can absolutely be done first priority is to have the waste disappear from your residents' laneways. But second would be, if you can see that you're going to have a half-full truck, half-filled truck, of course we could take anything that's already in landfill. And I think residents would be happy and see that as a very progressive thing.
Thank you very much. With that, thank you very much, Warden. Always a pleasure and a very informative session, and we certainly appreciate your passion in trying to move this forward.
Thank you very much. You've been very generous with your time, and hope to be working with you. Thank you.
Mr. D.